Hello and welcome back to my channel. So it has officially been 1 year since my fibroid surgery. How am I doing? I just can't believe it. Like, the year has gone so quickly. Like, what even was this operation? Where do I even start? So maybe we go back to the beginning. Do I tell you about my first period? Like, how far? I first got my period at the age of 12 on my birthday, I know. And again, I just thought pain was normal. You know, you hear about period pain and you're just like, well, I have pain, it's a period, that's what happens. So I definitely remember at school, you know, especially in the sixth form, sometimes I would have to go into school late. You know, I would have just awful pain and I would wake up and I'm like, I need to get in the shower. Like, that's what I would do. I'd take my paracetamol, get in the shower. That was the only thing that would work, like just getting in the shower or getting in the bath. But usually that would happen on day one and then everything else would be fine. That wasn't every period, but it did happen frequently. But I just don't know what's normal. Like, please tell me if you want to, like, what your periods were like. In terms of heaviness, I don't think they were particularly heavy. I mean, I wore tampons from the very beginning, tampons and pads, and then I've recently switched to a moon cup in the past now, like 6 years. My periods have been pretty samey, you know, my whole life. And then, yeah, started using the moon cup end of 2019. I don't think my flow could ever be seen as heavy flow and a wide set vagina. My fibroid story is a bit of an unexpected one. I've gone through a lot in the past few years and I was on some medication and I knew that medication could lead to weight gain. So I just thought, you know, my tummy is tummying. When I was younger, you know, when you're like, oh, I'm so fat, and you're not. You're not. And I was like, oh, I've got a tummy. I did not have a tummy, you know. And then when I started to have a bit more of a tummy, like it was like a size 12 with a soft tummy, you know, I kind of embraced it. I did a lot of like content in lingerie and bikinis. I did a whole Debenhams campaign. My tummy has always been soft, really. It's been soft for the past like 9 years. Like, I've never had abs. I don't want abs. I don't want to work on abs. When I was starting to gain weight, my tummy was soft. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm meant to be. But then things started to it was just so gradual and I had so many other things going on. And it was really frustrating in like 2023. When was the first time someone asked me if I was pregnant? That was 2022. And that was at an influencer event. And it was an influencer that I hadn't seen for a while. And he was like, who are you? And I'm like, maybe he just hadn't seen me for a few years. But then 2023, I was in my Zumba class and the Zumba teacher was like, oh, when are you due? And I'm like, why do you think I'm in the freaking gym? I was offered a seat on the overground in July 2023. I was wearing my lovely black dress from Styled and like I haven't worn it since. I suspected I had a hernia in early 2023, but it wasn't until July I got it checked out. So I wish I'd done this earlier. And then they found the fibroids, they found the hernia, and then they found a pulmonary embolism in my lung. So I had a CT scan and they found all of these things. It was a lot to take in and they were more focused on the pulmonary embolism, which is the blood clot. And then it was only in November 2023, I realized the size of the fibroids. So the largest one, I think, was 18 by 14 by 12 centimeters. And it was only then I connected the tummy to the fibroids. Because my mum had them, my aunt had them, but no one really looked pregnant, you know? Didn't have symptoms. And maybe I don't speak about my periods enough with friends. Like, what is even normal? I think because a lot of friends have been on like contraception and whatnot. I don't know, we don't really talk about that and we don't know what is even normal. I'd love if you could share your stories. So things kind of got escalated. I had a GP appointment around November 2023, then got an ultrasound December 2023, and then it was just waiting. And then I think they told me about my appointment in maybe like February 2024, got the appointment in April. And I don't don't know what I was expecting. I follow Dawn Heals, so she has like a really handy guide on, you know, how to prepare for fibroids and everything. But again, at that appointment, basically, I had to sign the paperwork for an open myomectomy. So also for the first ultrasound, make sure you have a full bladder. I didn't know this. I mean, I'd seen it on TV, but I didn't really connect it. Anyways, for the appointment I had in April, they gave me another ultrasound. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the first one I had was transvaginal. I think that's how you say it. So I had the first one, December 2023. In April, I was not expecting a transvaginal ultrasound, but I got one anyway. So just be prepared for that. I know it can be different, like depending on each borough. I went to the appointment. I mean, I don't even know what I expected from the appointment, but it was a lot to take in. And obviously they've got the hand up here, they're getting a second opinion. And then they say, like, if you have an open myomectomy, there's a risk of an emergency hysterectomy. And this is the first time I had ever heard this. I know, okay, in Dawn's guide, I think she has a question that alludes to this, but I didn't really read it through. You don't know. But then I had to sign the paperwork. So imagine you're having the transvaginal ultrasound. They're telling you all this stuff, and you've got to sign the paperwork. And you don't know, like, you don't know what happens if you don't sign it. I didn't know if I had to, you know, if I didn't sign it, what if I had to wait another year? You just don't know. And it's like, I didn't really know if they were affecting my fertility. I didn't want to risk it. And then if I did try and get pregnant, I wouldn't get pregnant, and then I'd need to wait. So I just had to sign the paperwork. And I basically just worried until my operation. So it was just the waiting game. I think in April 2024, they were like, the wait is between 3 and 6 months. So it was awful. I just hate, I mean, I knew at least for the next 3 months, everything was okay, but I wasn't sure what to do with like holidays, or when you have the operation, you have to take all your piercings out. So if you think you're going to have an open myomectomy, do not get any piercings. 2024 was just a really anxious waiting game. Obviously my tummy, I knew the tummy was the fibroids, and I was trying to dress for a tummy, and I was like, I don't want to buy maternity leggings because I'm not pregnant. You know, I was just dressing really carefully. I was dating, but I only actually mentioned it to one of my dates. But I was just having to like live my life. I was obviously like doing Zumba. I don't think I was doing Reformer, but yeah, was mainly doing Zumba. I had a personal trainer, but then I stopped it because I was just like, what is the point? I think in early October, I got given a date for my surgery a month later. I'm very lucky. I'm flexible. I'm freelance. Even prior to this, I was calling up and I was like, look, I can take a cancellation. I was also trying to call to find out a bit more about the possibility of an emergency hysterectomy, because I've had friends who've had the operation and they were like, yeah, you know, we were aware of it, but we just sort of went for it. So I just wanted to talk to them. I think that's what Dawn said. She said, you know, talk to them, ask them how likely it is based on where the fibroids are. So if you do have that appointment in person, ask that, like, how likely is the risk of an emergency hysterectomy? If having children, you know, naturally is something that you want, it's just something to think about. But I think it is very rare. So yeah, so in October, I got given a date for my surgery, and then it was all systems go. I wanted to sort out the flat. I wanted to get my work sorted out. I wanted to get some meals in the freezer. I also bought some from Cook. I work as an influencer, so I filmed a bit of content. I had some ads that I had to get filmed. I was trying to tell the brands, and they were like, oh, can you post on the 11th? And I'm like, well, my operation is on the 10th. And they're like, okay, but can you post on the 11th? And yeah, another one was like, oh, but can you post at the end of that week? And I'm like, well, if I'm still alive, I will try. But I just, you know, managed expectations. Luckily, everything went well. Like, even prep mentally, I don't know. I was a bit scared about being, you know, under anesthetic and everything, but I was just like, look, take me, take me. Yeah, so before your surgery, you will have a pre-op phone call. The woman was not very helpful, but I think this is where they tell you, like, the time of everything. Like, you have to fast in the morning, and then you have to have an in-person appointment for like a blood test. And that's when you can ask more questions, which I didn't know. I think at the end of the appointment, they gave me a leaflet, and then it was like, you should have asked questions. So yeah, I love the NHS, but things are just not happening in the right order. I do have a blog post on this. But I think you're not meant to have alcohol like 3 days before surgery. So I went hard at like a Garnier event singing WAP on the karaoke. That was like my last hurrah. The day of my surgery, I think the time got changed. I thought I was going to go in the morning, changed to the afternoon, but I had to get up at 5 a.m. I think I had to fast from 6 a.m. So I got up, had a coffee, had a bit of cereal, went back to bed, and then I had to go in for maybe like 11 a.m. So yeah, it was nerve-wracking. I took my before little video. I knew I was going to document everything. So technically I was working, but it's, you know, it's fun work. I was a bit nervous. So yeah, I had to take all my earrings out. I don't even think I could put moisturizer on. I obviously packed loads of period pants. I packed, what did I pack? Not tenor lady. I think I packed like disposable underwear, like all sorts of stuff that I didn't actually end up needing. I think the main thing you want are like nighties, because you just want everything. You don't want to be restrictive. So like really loose nighties, big knickers, period pants if you have them. Well, yeah, period pants. But maybe disposable ones, because you just don't know what's going to happen. If you do live alone, like make sure you have everything that you need to access. So my air fryer, I moved that so that I wouldn't have to, you know, I have a very small kitchen. So I just moved the air fryer to somewhere that it was easy to use. You can't have any nail polish. So it's only now I'm like really doing my nails, but yeah, no nails. I wish I'd brought a little bowl, because I just didn't wash my face for like 3 days. So ideally, yeah, pack a little bowl, so that if someone comes to visit you, they can bring you some hot water so you can wash your face. Bring some cordial or squash if you get bored of water. Maybe have some snacks, because when I finished my maybe do I talk about the operation? Okay, so when I got to the hospital, I had to give a urine sample, so just be aware of this. I think they weighed me. I went to the anaesthetist. They asked me some questions. I don't really like to know my weight, but it's too late now. I know my weight. But maybe if you don't want to know your weight, tell them. It was just a lot of waiting around, and then you get taken to an area where you have to change into the gown. So you got to take everything off. You got to put on these like sexy stockings and your hospital gown, and then you give them your valuables and they get locked away. So that's very secure. I remember going into the theatre and they ask you questions. They give you the anesthetic. It all happened so fast. And they were asking me about my job. Do I tell you? All I remember is like I remember telling them my job. And then I think I farted. And that's all I remember until I woke up. When I woke up, I was like, is it gone? Is it gone? It was a lot. And then my dad was there. It was all like, I didn't really make a plan with my family, but my dad was there. He brought me some sweets. When did I ask the doctor if I could still have children? I cannot remember. I'd missed dinner, so maybe bring a sandwich for later. In the hospital that I went to, they give you sandwiches if it's after dinner. But I wish I'd have brought, you know, I'm bougie. I wish I'd just got like a nice Italian sandwich, maybe some pastries, maybe fruit. I didn't like the hospital food. Apparently there's a Caribbean menu. I didn't know that. Whatever you think you need to get through that, I would bring. The first night was rough. I don't know if I was really in pain on the first night, but I was on a ward and there was a woman on the ward who was like fussing. So I didn't really sleep that well. The next day I was just really grumpy, and it's interesting because when I got home, I realized they'd give me a booklet preparing for your surgery. And I only got that, I think, after the surgery. And I think it said, like, you may feel a bit down. Yes, that definitely happened to me. Day 2 didn't really do much. I think, is this when I think the doctor then showed me the picture of the fibroids. She told me how much they weighed and how many there were. And I think, did she tell me at this point that I could have kids, or did I ask? I don't remember when I asked, but everything was fine. I can still give birth vaginally if I want to. And yeah, nothing. I was cut open up here. I have like a C-section scar, so nothing came out. So if that's a concern, she was like, you can have sex in 8 weeks. And I was like, am I going to have sex in 8 weeks or 8 years? And then the third day, the physio, she forced me to get out of bed. I was in a lot of pain. It was really hard, but I think you just got to push through. The more you do it, the easier it is. So I went in on the Monday. I came out on the Saturday, I think, because I had a temperature. So they kept me in for a bit longer. And then I was finally discharged. My mum did not actually stay with me, so I didn't have anyone with me. So you're not really meant to bend down. I don't think I needed to bend down. You might want to get a litter picker. I think someone recommended that. I'd got some, meals from Cook in the freezer, and I'd cooked a few things, and you can always get a Deliveroo. So a week later, I went to my first work event. I was kind of working. Obviously, I work on my phone a lot, but it was fine. So yeah, I went to an event. I was late. I wanted to get the bus. The bus took ages, and I had to get the tube, which was not ideal because I didn't want to do that much walking. But I did it, and I got to the event later, and I was just like hobbling. I was like, I've had an operation, I'm sorry. I was pretty active, out and about, going for walks, meeting up with people. And then I was cleared to exercise, I think 6 weeks later, but it was Christmas. When I say exercise, I mean Pilates and yoga. So yeah, that's what I started in January. My period, it says my period came on the 9th of December. So I had my period just before the operation, and then it came 44 days later. So it was slightly later. Again, there was just nothing out of the ordinary. I think my periods are just normal. Like, I don't really get pain. But in terms of the scar, again, I didn't take pictures of the scar. I didn't really want to look at the scar. I'm very squeamish, and it was kind of all sort of wrapped up in there. I didn't really want to look at it. So I don't even have pictures of like how it healed. I thought, when you get 5 kilos worth of fibroids taken out, I thought that my stomach would look a bit flatter. Again, I don't even know, what is my tummy supposed to even look like? I've gone through so many things, and now I'm 38. Like, if I get on the floor, I can't. If I drop it down low, can I get back up? I was a bit down. I was like, still got a tummy. Maybe it's not as rounded, but it's still there. I think I only lost about 2 inches. But sometimes, eat a certain thing, the inches come back. So it was annoying because one of my aunts was like, you'll see a difference straight away. Has she had that surgery? No. My favorite exercise is Zumba. So I was cleared to do that in February. I was obviously in Jamaica, so I did a couple of classes. But then when I came back in like March, I was like, right, ready to go. Signed up to Reformer Pilates, but I just don't like it. I don't really like it as much. I'm only going because Aja Barber said it really helped her. Again, my core wasn't even great before. And I keep injuring myself. I tripped on the pavement in like May, so had to miss a couple of classes. And then the other day I fell off my bike. So there's been a bit of like my exercise, it's a bit like this. And if I have events and everything, it's just trying to find a balance. There's some new gym classes that I'm really enjoying. So I try and do Zumba at least 3 times a week. I'm also a cycling girly. So I've been cycling in central London for the past 6 months. On a busy week, I could be cycling 4 times. It really depends. It's just very surreal that like someone cut me open and saw my insides, and it's weird. It's a weird one. I guess it's like having a baby. Like, not everyone snaps back. We're not all Nara Smith. You're like, I've got this scar, I gave life. I'm like, I gave birth to non-cancerous growths. Like, have they even grown back? Again, you just hear so many different things about diet, and I've got friends with fibroids and they're different races. One's vegetarian, one doesn't eat red meat. Like, I think it's just really complicated, and it definitely needs to be studied more because it's affecting so many of us and affecting our quality of life. I've had to be really kind and gentle with myself. Of course, I get all these messages on Instagram from personal trainers, and they're like, I've been following you. Do you want to lose fat? And it's like, you haven't obviously been following me because you would know that I've been through this. If I am going to work with a personal trainer, I would prefer that they don't know what my job is. The last personal trainer I had, I never told her my job. She never asked about my job. She never followed me on Instagram. I prefer to keep these things separate, especially because my GP said she follows me on Instagram. You may see me, going to salsa. I don't really film at salsa. I filmed a little bit of Zumba the other day, but it's not typically what I want to do. I don't really, sometimes I film myself if I'm going to do weights. I did see a personal trainer and she did give me lots of workouts in an app that I can do. So I think the goal is to do some of those workouts before my Zumba class, because I find that I just don't really have a lot of like rest days. I get messages from personal trainers on Instagram, and even one, she sent me a voice note. One of my followers said, like, if that's something I was looking into, I would look into it. Like, it's a bit weird for people to assume what I want for my body. In this season, I'm just being really, really kind to myself, and I'm not trying to rush myself. You know, I'm 38. I feel like my body could go through a lot of changes. I don't think I could deal with like losing loads of weight. And then maybe what if I get pregnant and I just can't be dealing with the yo-yo, you know? The yo-yo, you know. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out like what is realistic for me in terms of exercise. I don't need to look like a supermodel because I am 5'6". Like, so that's my little update on how I'm doing post my open myomectomy surgery. Let me know in the comments if you've got fibroids. How are your periods? Have you gone through this? Like, talk to me. Like, we just need to be a lot more open about these things. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at I am Kristabel and on TikTok at Kristabel Plumber. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.